today's Big Blend Radio Show has been airing live from the Wild-Wisteria-Bed-and-Breakfast. It is in Chadds Ford, which is part of the Brandywine Valley. That's what I'm understanding anyway. It's like we're just new here and loving it. We're talking about an area with forests, beautiful parks, state parks, a lot of history that goes way back when, gardens, good food, just good people. And so the Wild Wisteria Inn Bed and Breakfast is formerly the Pennsbury Inn, and we're very excited to have the innkeepers join us on today's show. And so that would be Brad and Cindy Eck. And I encourage you to go to their website. It is Wild-Wisteria-B&B.com. So check it out. So I'm going to invite Brad on. Brad, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Doing good. So what part of the house are you in?
I am in our, we are in the 1714 section of the house, the original.
Okay. And Cindy, are you in the garden? I saw you gardening earlier.
I was trying to pull up weeds while the ground was still moist and it wasn't pouring down rain and flash flooding. So
I know. We've had some storms today. Nancy and I were running around going, okay, is this going to happen today? But it did. But listen, Cindy, Nancy, and I went to Longwood Gardens today, and we did get rain at the end while we were filming the fountain. Their fountains are incredible. This is the most visited botanical garden in the country. I did not know that this region is the garden capital of the country either.
It is.
It's amazing.
And you wanted the B&B here to be close to Longwood Gardens, right?
Absolutely. Longwood Gardens is basically my happy place. Brad and I love to travel, and we've been to gardens all over the world, and Longwood Gardens is top-notch. Pierre DuPont knew exactly what he was doing when he created this lovely place just a mile and a half down the road from us.
We have to come back to go back to the garden. We met with Patricia Evans, who's the communications director there today, and as we went in, and she'll be on a show, everybody. We're going to have a whole segment on Longwood Gardens, but she said the minimum time is 3 hours, and we went, 4 or 5 hours, and there was a storm. But I feel like it needs to be 2 hours. I mean 2 days, not 2 hours, 2 days, like to even
cover it.
It's so huge. And then when you come back to your place here, you've got this resemblance of that too in some ways of when you look down from the rose room, which is where I am, you have kind of that same design. Do you know what I mean? With the centerpiece and the walkways, there's kind of a similar design. Does that
absolutely.
Make sense?
Absolutely it does. I'm not trying to be a mini Longwood Gardens, but I have been super involved, and I'm very passionate about gardening and cooking, and
cool.
So this is just, we have 8 acres here. 4 of the acres are forested, and then the other 4 are landscaped, and it's just, we love to share it with people from all over the world. And then to have conversations with people that have been to other gardens, just as we have, is just, it's so much fun.
You know
nice.
what? Nancy and I realized we did a show with the Philadelphia Garden Show like 2-3 years ago. They actually contacted us. We did a show with them. They were doing a film thing. They contacted us because the National Parks Centennial was happening at the time. And they wanted some of our footage, and they're like, hey, we're doing this. Can you give us an Organ Pipe Cactus National Park stuff, a national monument? And we're like, yeah, here. And then we ended up doing a show with the Philadelphia Garden Show, and that's where it was like all coming together. We're so new to back east, and I think this is such a night and day experience for anybody in the West or out of the country or out of the region to come here and experience this, because this is such history. The history runs deep, and the gardens run deep for sure, and ancient. Brad, you mentioned the 1700s. This is really historic. Tell tell us a little bit about the beginning, like the 1700 part, because I know you're on the National Historic Register of Historic Buildings, right? With the
Correct.
B&B.
Correct. Yeah. So the house was built. It's a stone wall, 18-inch stone wall exterior all the way around. And I would say that the original house is probably 20 by 20, Cindy, something to that effect. 20. It's not huge.
Correct.
In any respect. And it was built with a 6-foot basement, the main floor, the second floor, and then the full attic. So they built them up, and they kind of stood out. But it was on, Cindy, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the John Hope property, and it was 300 acres at the time, something to that effect.
Correct, and it was part of the William Penn land grant.
Correct.
Cool.
The grant is one of 3 major land grants in the area, and one of them, this one's called Pennsbury. That's the name.
Okay.
So yeah, in our area, we use this as our personal area. The B&Bs in Pennsylvania are required to be owner-occupied when they're in residential zoning, and so we live in this area primarily because this old house has 180-degree staircases. So from floor to floor, it's a 180-degree rotation. And then you come in and you go up the next 180 to go to the next floor, et cetera. So there's 3 up. And that's a very difficult thing to navigate if you're a guest in a B&B with luggage and everything else. So we've just kind of chosen this area to be our home.
I think it's amazing, and I think the history of this is amazing because, and I think people, you just actually really have to come here to really get it. Because there were battles fought really on your property, right? The Brandywine battle was part of this, and there's a battlefield just down the road from you. But part of that battle actually went on this site.
Yeah, so 2 miles west of us is the Kennett Meeting House, and there was a ambush on September 9th, 1779, which was part of the Revolutionary War. And then we know that the Americans pushed the British back towards where the Brandywine-Battlefield is, and on September 11th, an interesting date of 1779, that was where the largest battle in the Revolutionary War took place. And we lost that battle, and it pushed us north up to Valley Forge, which is the setup for the whole Valley Forge retraining of the Revolutionary Army and the turning point in the war.
Wow. Now, I know downstairs you have this, like a Bible of this house that goes into all the detail of all of the war, everything. It's like amazing. This is how historic it is. I mean, that's why I keep going back to, on the West we have, and of course here too, obviously, when we talk about the indigenous people, that history spans thousands of years. When you talk about, the new people coming in, the Americans, the Dutch, the Germans, that's where this is kind of new history, but the 1700s is probably some of the oldest history we have in that. The Spanish too. We got to bring that in. I mean, there's African Americans coming in and other Africans coming in, not Africans but Black people. It's just a very interesting time in history of different things happening, and it continued on. But being here versus California or Colorado, and you guys have lived in Portland and Seattle and all those areas, so you know what I'm talking about, where this is like some different history. Yeah.
So as you referenced, we've lived all over. I grew up in LA. My wife grew up in Portland, and we've lived in Seattle. We've lived in Texas. We've lived in many different parts of the country, Central California as well, and went to school in Virginia. And we've seen a lot of this country driving back and forth to school, driving all over. Cindy has been in 49 of the states. I've been in 48. So we've seen our country. We've experienced our country, and we've chosen to land here in Pennsylvania, especially in the Brandywine Valley, because we love it here. It meets her, Longwood is her happy place, and she loves to garden, and it really is just a beautiful kind of balance of quality of life and everything that we would want.
Well,
Yeah,
and talking about the history too, though, we have a trap door into the basement for the Underground Railroad. So it was very, very active in this area at the time. And there was actually there is an actual meeting point on our property where when families or communities that were traveling together, when they would get split up, they would meet at this particular tree that is on our property. So it's, it seems like every century has seen some major historical significance, which we just love that. I'm very much into history, and growing up on the West Coast, neither one of us, really saw as far as architecture or history really what it's like here on the East Coast where this country began.
Right. That's where Nancy and I are feeling culture shock right now.
Yeah.
Like, really. I mean, I'm serious.
Hugely different.
It's hugely different the way the houses are. I mean, even getting here, when we drove from Springville, Pennsylvania to here, and I felt like we were in seaside villages, even though we're in the middle of the country, with the way the houses are. Like, I can't explain it. It's different. Everything's kind of closer together. Then there's portions where everything's open up, but it's like it's completely different than the West.
Definitely
we're going through a change here.
It seems more like a place in South Africa, Sea Point, South Africa,
and Tulbagh as well.
Yeah, Tulbagh for sure. In South Africa, it seems more like South Africa to us than it does other parts of America. It's so weird.
In the west coast of South Africa, so from like Cape Town, which is very Dutch, right? And that's where the Dutch East India Company had their history. It just feels very much like that area going up the west coast towards Namibia. That's what it feels like for us. Yeah. It's kind of weird because we feel like we've kind of been here.
We feel like
not,
we're home in South Africa.
Right.
Yeah. The inn itself, these rooms, I mean, listen, your beds, I'm so super cozy, happy, the pillows are perfect. And I think when you get perfect pillows, it's important, and the bed just, like, you can just sleep. And, we've been traveling for, it's been kind of a hectic few weeks for us.
Right.
And I'm just like, this is awesome. And then I wake up and I look out, everybody, the rose suite, seriously. You look out, you have the bird's eye view of the garden, like you wouldn't believe. And I would say this would be like the perfect writer's retreat.
Oh, for sure.
Here.
Yeah. Oh, well, we love to hear that. And I've been in the hospitality industry for many, many years, and I'm kind of a perfectionist. And so we bought all new mattresses when we moved in. We deep cleaned. We're still working on some different projects here and there. You've got a 300-plus-year-old house. Yeah. So there's always something to fix or work on, right?
Yeah.
But we've really tried to make it as cozy as possible for people. And we have different size beds, and, people can pick a theme. You can go on our website and pick a themed room, or you can be on the front part of the house or the back part of the house. And we even have a first floor bedroom with a bathroom, which is very unusual for historical properties.
Right. That's the interesting part is there's so much history here, and you've got the 6 suites. And I want to go to Brad on this with the changes of time here, because it kept adding on through the years. And I mean, the centuries, excuse me.
Sure.
Let's just get straight on that. But the names of the rooms are all kind of plantified, right? They're all honoring plants, except for you've got one it's all about the sea. So that's interesting about that. So, are you going to keep all the names?
We're very much all about nature. So most of them are the names of flowers, but then we love the beach and the ocean. We're very much into scuba diving and snorkeling and water sports.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
See, that's coral. Yeah. You got to honor the coral Like today, there were plants that we saw at Longwood that just reminded me of coral, and I remember growing them in South Africa, and I can't remember the names, but
the
they look like coral. The
It's
coxcomb, but then it goes, and then it goes wide, but it's like it's a wider version. It's almost like you guys can grow Australian plants here, I think.
Yeah,
like
we can actually, and I am actually overwhelmed sometimes when I go to Longwood because every season, so you said you need to spend 2 days there. Well, you need to come at least one time during each season because
2 days a season, 2 to 3 days.
So they redo all the flowers, all the bulbs, all the Christmas decorations are amazing. So every season, even every month, there's something different.
That's cool. And then all the water features, and I think that's what's really cool is the water features there too. Like the water features today. Yeah. Like every time you turned around, there's another water feature, and I think that's this calming part of it. Like we love to hear running water,
Exactly.
So it's magic. You guys have an amazing growing zone, but that's this beautiful thing of being outside. But Brad, going to the history, the centuries of this house. So we start, 1717? No, 1712, right? 1714. No, see, I'm never going to get it right. But 1714, like at that point.
Right.
1714 is the main house, and then it adds on.
And then so the owners at the time wanted to start an inn. And so in 1749, they added another section of the house, probably about 30 feet in length by the standard 20 of the width of the house at the time. They just kind of added on to the east side, and in that they built what was an inn. It was a 3-bedroom inn. It had a stairway up and everything, and over the course of 10 years, it was doing so well that they then again in 1759 added on. If you look north in the house, they added to the back of the house, and they added an entire section about the same size as the 1749 section, and they used that for the dining room and then built 2 rooms above it. So they expanded out, and they had a 5-bedroom house at that point in time. And that's where it stayed for about 100 years. And in 1850 time frame, a gentleman by the name of Joseph Lancaster was living in the house at the time and wanted to extend into building a tavern onto the edge of it. And so he added another section on the east side, and he connected what was originally built as a summer kitchen in 1714, which has one of 3 beehive ovens left in Chester County. It's a very, very cool oven that they had back then. He connected that point in 1850, and so there was a formal kitchen now, and what could very well have been the tavern is what we consider the lobby now, but it's beautiful. And the exterior wall, we've kind of exposed the exterior wall now to what was that old building, and the brick inside, it just adds so much character to it. And then finally,
you got. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I like that area because doesn't that tie back to Mr. Lancaster, the little ghosty man?
Yeah.
That
So
wants to serve everybody wine. And
that's right.
Spirits.
The story is that when you see the lights flickering, Joseph Lancaster is having an argument with the township over whether or not he could get a license to sell alcohol. So that's kind of the story about the ghost of Joseph Lancaster.
You go. I'm on your side.
I vote for
him. This is so funny. Go. It ties in with our interview before you, but we won't go there now.
Okay.
It's interesting. But so I mean, you got to think. What about prohibition during these times, right? So where does all of that sit? Kind of interesting. Like when you think about these properties, these historic properties, what was hidden underneath. Like, don't you want to dig up the yard, Cindy, really, in some way and see what's buried? You could find wine down there. You never know. That's good.
all of our guests ask us if we've taken a metal detector to the grounds because, there's got to be something, buried in the 8 acres somewhere that's, super cool, but we haven't done that yet.
I know, but so you've got the lobby part, but then it goes further, right? And then there was also stuff like you've got the Highway 1 or the one highway turnpike thingy.
So Highway 1, and that's a really good point because, it's literally Highway 1, the first highway. It's out front of our door, right? That's the first one. And
what do you mean, the first highway in the country or in the state?
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah, Highway 1. It's the first, now, whether or not it was the first road, that's a different conversation, right? But the idea is that it's U.S. Highway 1, and it's going right through or right in front of our property. At one point in 1961, let me say, in 1961, it was a little further south of us, and they decided to make a highway out of it, meaning pave it and everything else. And so they moved it closer. They split our property so that actually the barn that's across the street used to be all combined. It was Joseph Lancaster's barn. And so they built the road in 1961. And then in 1965, we had a carriage house that was out on the front corner of our lot. And there was a bad snowstorm that year, and the combination of that and the vibrations from the road and everything else just knocked the carriage house down. It was also an ice house in there. But what they did is in '69 they added on another section to the east side of the house, and they repurposed the lumber, the flooring, the beams, the flooring, and the stone, and they built an amazing addition onto the edge of the house, utilizing the old American chestnut flooring, which we have pieces that are bigger than 15 inches wide on the floor, and then we have the beams that are being used as supportive beams, and we have the stone on just an amazing fireplace that was built.
That's amazing. The barn outside, like when you come outside the front door, that barn area, like would that be the latter part? Like, it's so cool. Like, I love that. Yeah. That's like.
Yeah. So we have we use that as a garage. I believe that the previous owner, or maybe not the previous owner, but the resident who was here, I think that was their original antique shop, and then they kind of moved their antique shop across the street into the barn because that was still their property at the time in the late 1900s.
Oh. And I want to tell everybody that being here, you're on a highway, but it's not like a interstate, right? It's you would think it would be loud.
It's a 4-lane highway.
It is, and it's like. Yeah, you have a flag out to let everybody know and everything. It's like I have markers to find it here. I mean, we got off the road and turned right, and we were here. And I'm like, what? We're here, and we were here. And let me tell you, the rooms are super quiet. You would never ever know that you are on a highway. The first thing I noticed, that is a huge deal. It's a huge deal. It really is.
That was one of those things when we came to look at the property. So we bought the property a year and a half ago, and 2 years ago when we were looking at the property, and you're online and you're reading reviews and you're seeing everything because you're buying a business, right? You're looking at all of this stuff. It was a B&B before. We noticed a consistency that there was complaints about the noise. And you looked, and they were the original windows. In the 1714 section of the house, these are 1714 windows, and very, very old character in the house. And the last thing you want to do is remove something like that and get rid of that character. But we are running a business, and so because this thing has been improved over time and elements of the house have been repurposed, Cindy and I committed to honoring that commitment to this house. And so what we've done is we did replace all of the windows. We did replace all of the doors. It's absolutely dead silent inside. It's amazing because we have double pane windows, and it's just peaceful, right?
Sleep there.
And
I sleep there. Everybody,
and our tagline, our tagline is rest, love. We really do want you to rest. We really do want you to love this place and just really relax. Our our job, our commitment to you is to invest in you in whatever way that we can. But to carry the story there, when we replaced these, we, of course, kept all of those windows and doors, and we repurposed them. So we have sliding barn doors in the house, or sliding doors in the house that we hung using the old doors that we took off. So this, in the middle of the house, we have a 1714 exterior door with the old hardware and the hinges, and it's used as a slider. And I have all of the windows, and I'm looking to build a greenhouse out of the old windows that were in the house. So we just repurposing.
That's
now,
very
listen,
cool.
my headboard is pretty cool here in the Rose Room. The Rose Suite. Tell me about this headboard. I've been wanting to ask you about this like for the last couple nights we've been here. This headboard is cool because it's like it's windows. It's like.
Yep.
Do you
Cindy,
know where it's
you
from?
want to speak to that one?
I don't know a lot of history behind that. That was actually given to me by a very dear friend of mine. It was an old French door that came off a house, I don't know where, but they were using it as a headboard for their bed, and I love the idea. It's so cool. And when they decided, when they had to move, they couldn't take it with them, and she asked me if I wanted it. And I said, absolutely. So, we hung on to it until, we closed on this property, and I knew exactly where it was going to go.
It's so perfect. Cool. I mean, every night I look at it and go, how cool is this? I keep turning around and looking at it because it's actually one of my favorite things because it even matches the windows in a way, right? Even though they're modern windows, it matches the windows. So it's like this perfect pairing of this room. The other thing is, before we go, because we're going to have to go soon, the outdoor area and indoors has become an event center and weddings. So you guys have this intimate property, like it's magical. Like when you think about magical gardens, this is one of those places with fountains, and you've got the bird fountain in the pond out here and a walkway for the bride and groom, and it's like a magical, intimate event center. And I know you can do business meetings and everything. You've got all the rooms for that, but this is really a magical event venue for folks.
Well, thank you for that. It is. We've worked hard to get there, right, and to really express it in the way that we want. When we bought it a year and a half ago, it had been I would say kept up in a very thin way. The previous owners had attempted to sell it for 5 years, and there wasn't a lot of maintenance going on during that time. And so I joke around that I had to prune with a chainsaw because of how overgrown everything was. And we were out there. We were out there every day last year, just making it what it needed to be. And we still do a lot of work. We're still working on pruning, and Cindy spent a lot of time cleaning the wisteria arbor, which is a 60 by 10 arbor that we have outside that has just a ton of wisteria on it. It's beautiful. She spent a lot of time this year doing that, so that was our focal point. And she's constantly out there taking out weeds and gardening, and that's her passion. That's what she loves to do, so that's been good.
And listen, Cindy, you and Abby, daughter Abby here, know how to cook a mean breakfast. Not only garden, but a mean breakfast. And you got super cool dogs out here too. Listen, if you want your doggy fix too, I mean, the food like is amazing. So, and that's a whole part of the experience too. So that is you got gardens, you got history, you got food. It's a destination. Really, everybody needs to come out here, and we got to go. So thank you for joining us in your own B&B. How about that?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So everybody, go to Wild-Wisteria-B&B.com. So it's an N. So BNB.com. Wild-Wisteria-B&B.com in Chadds Ford, Pennsylvania. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thanks.